690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Yes, back in the studio today because we cannot miss out on Friday. Free for All Friday is what we're doing today, but however you may be tuning in, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We've got a lot of ways. A lot of people can tune in, chime in over there, and already got those phone lines beginning to fill up. But that's one of our more important parts of Free for All Friday, is that we're taking on everything we can throughout both hours of the program here. So whether you want to chime in any of those ways mentioned, or even in between, as it's a pseudo anniversary on the show, not the full 3 years of us being daily on this program, but one of the earlier kind of movements around it. June 2nd of 2020 was one of our first attempts, tests, I guess might be the best way to put it, and getting towards that. So a pseudo anniversary, like I said. So if you're so inclined, celebrate in the manner you see fit. Otherwise, if you want to call in again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is available right now, but we'll see for how much longer, as we already got some callers on the line here. Also, Amber Banda with the rock on, Calvin Williams with the wave. Appreciate that. Those already dropping those likes and reacts, including Amber Banda, James Holmes, Calvin Williams, and Angel Rueda. Oh, we got a lot going on today. So, okay, since we weren't able to be up on air yesterday, basically I wasn't able to get to the station in enough time to actually make a show happen. So we had to resort to some contingencies is what it ended up being. So like I said, technological failures technically, but not of the broadcast kind. So a few things that we would have talked about and are still very much going on today. From our news partners at KFOX, 14 man arrested after pipe bomb found near Baptist Church in Las Cruces, which apparently no relation to the previous ones and incidents of churches with explosive devices being found outside of them as of about 2015, give or take. Also, El Paso's new interim city manager taking over as of the start of this month. So he's still, going into and stepping into the role. Gonzalez remains city manager until June 29th, but the step up for him in the interim period, according to our news partners when they interviewed him, 3 major priorities that he's going to be tackling from him. Quotes were in that of, actually didn't say the name yet, Carrie Weston, serving as the interim city manager, said, quote, "We are in the budget season, so delivering a budget to the city council this summer is going to be very important. Certainly carrying forward the council's directive of a city manager search, and that whole process is another big priority. And then more than likely under my watch, make a decision on the hiring of the police chief for our city as well." So that's just for some slightly small priorities, choosing a couple of replacements, including potentially his own. But we'll see how that ends up working out. But a lot of other things going on, including more about what has or hasn't happened with education as of the end of the special. Well, not the end of the special session yet, but yeah. And no 3 martini lunches. Again, it was not an impairment issue, but rather a technological one. Basically, I had on the way to the station here, ended up having a tire blowout in a dead zone. It was just it would have been a comedy of errors if it was at all funny, but wasn't exactly a Rick Rollicking good time at that point in time. But don't worry, everything's safe. Even the tow company still hasn't showed up, which irks me a little bit. But anyway, yeah, some people saying they missed us. And with the extended also, yeah, happy Friday or Freak Show Friday, depending on your proclivities. But let's just dive straight into it and get to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for Free for All Friday.
Definitely thankful for that as well over here. So what's on your mind?
Well, something that has not been brought up in a long time, but I know you're still aware that Mexico has continued with its lawsuit against gun manufacturers.
You know what? Yeah, it has been a minute since we brought that up. I had not seen any updates on that one recently. So, yeah, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised that it's continuing on, though. I haven't really heard anything substantive on that, though. I will admit I haven't looked up for it here in a minute.
Well, what happened is that Mexico appealed the decision out of Massachusetts, the federal district court, and they appealed it to the Fifth Circuit. Lots of luck in them prevailing in the Fifth Circuit. That's all I can say.
Yeah, because now I'm recalling here, seeing a reporting specifically from Reuters here that was dismissed back in October of last year, if I'm not mistaken, because essentially, among other things, that it was, standing is one of the issues that keeps coming up here, though I'm not seeing immediate part of it, but that federal law unequivocally bans lawsuits for that purpose. So that's the appeal potentially going on. That was immediately expected to happen. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised that this is still percolating through, as it's what is the value? $10 billion lawsuit specifically. That's not exactly chump change.
True, very true. But Mexico's theory is that the liability of gun manufacturers, it rests on the theory that gun manufacturers knowingly cause Mexican gun violence, which it's a really, really false theory. And all I can say is that Mexico, it's not so much the idea of holding them accountable. They want the money. That's what they want.
There's the strong potential there. Again, it is not a chump change. I'll certainly agree with you on that point. And again, the novel legal theory, I think the reason that this has continued to be with any level of prevalence at all is because of the implications for, frankly, domestic politics that would come from this, and people saying, oh, well, if a foreign country can hold them liable, it certainly could happen within the United States. So I think that's about the only reason this is being given any credence at all, is because of those with similar agendas. Let me just put it that way.
Well, you've had several states attorneys generals filing amicus briefs in favor of support of Mexico. Well, I just wonder, did these attorneys generals register under the FARA Act, Foreign Agent Registration Act? If you're advocating on behalf of a foreign entity, you've got to register.
I'm sure there's some technicalities that'll probably get talked about, including the fact that it's a domestic action. But, that kind of goes to my previous thing about how there are domestic policy implications that those that are probably putting this forth here have also probably, I'm going to guess, without knowing any of those in specific attorneys generals, that they have a, let's just call it, complementary domestic policy program as it is.
Well, yeah. Let's just say in the nutshell, this is Mexico is what they call in the legal field. They are a vexatious litigant. They do this to annoy individuals. But like I said, they're not spending their own money. They're spending money that for sure is being given to them in foreign aid. So why worry about what it's costing them?
Yeah, the idea of other countries using the money that we give them in that foreign aid in order to be detrimental or affect domestic things in the U.S., not exactly a great thing, I would say. I don't know if that's ever up for review, though I'm sure that'll come up the next time we end up talking about some of those major budget packages.
Well, put it this way. Do you all out there, and I'm talking to my friends on the left, do you all want Vladimir Putin suing the United States in federal court for sending arms to Ukraine?
Simple answer, no, though also involving a domestic aid there, we'd have to be sending anything to Russia as opposed to against Russia. So maybe not quite the same thing, but your point on the general idea of it does also stand.
Yes, general idea. That is exactly correct. But knowing these people on the left, they will take something and blow it out of proportion to their own benefit. So I leave you with that. You have a good weekend and you have a good Friday, Andrew.
You too as well. Appreciate the point on the call. Hope you have a good one there.
Thank you.
And with that, let's go ahead and take that first break of this hour. Now, I've got some more questions coming in and some more other news stories being talked about, but we'll keep taking those phone calls as well, getting on track as we are for Friday, Free for All Friday, what it means, what we do, and what we will continue to be. So if you want to get on that phone line, again, that number to call, and just remember, stay on the line until we answer you, and then we'll pop you up live in case we're having some patience issues with it beyond anything technological. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A couple of incidents on the loop in the East Valley slowing traffic. Memorial Highway northbound at Pebble Hills. An accident there's off on the left shoulder. Multiple vehicles off on the right shoulder northbound Loop 375 at Edgemere. Earlier crashes cleared downtown on the I-10 eastbound, but there's still delays, 20-minute delays from Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot. Police are responding to an accident westbound Alameda at Copia. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food too.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-334-2266. That's 800-334-2266. 800-334-2266.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in. However you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Some of the questions coming in, including Angel Rueda asking, any updates on voting numbers? Did we even get to 500? Just wondering. So the update, I did mention that I think that some of the campaign texts I'm getting here, let me see if I can pull that up here real quick, because I do get a number of them. If it didn't end up going to my spam, it may have. So let me see. We got there. The fact that we have spam text filters is both a probably good, and then also the fact that it has to exist a little bit disturbing in its own right here. So yeah, I did have to dig through my spam in this one. Nope, that's Memorial Day one. Okay, I'm sure I'll find it here in a minute, but was essentially saying that I believe in the District 6 race specifically. Here we go. Yeah, this one said on behalf of the campaign of Valerie Ganelon Beals, saying that even though EPISD accounts for half of our property tax bill, only 300 voters have cast ballots in this important election. So I think that may have been based off of either Monday's numbers or at the very least, maybe just in the District 6 itself, current numbers as of, the full early voting for Thursday, depending on if you count the mail-in ballots returned or not, comes out to about 700 and change or about 1,100 and a half, which comes out to for the 85,000 people that are eligible for the election overall, which of course includes non-EPISD, but everyone who has voted in this current El Paso runoff election, the county of El Paso, it's either 0.8%, so no, not even a full percent, or 0.13, 0.137% if you round up, which is a very generous roundup, I might add. So, I'm absolutely going to not stake anything on this hitting double digits this time around. Disappointing as heck, because, I mean, yeah, we got like not even a fourth of the election pool, and yet we're already this dismal. Yeah. So we hit 500. Yay. But just please go vote if you can. Yes, I have not voted yet. For everyone who has, even if you can't comment or chime in, I do appreciate you having done so. And so, anyone planning to go out and vote, you'll get your ding once you actually do so, and I'll ding myself as well. Anyway, other comments coming in, including John Browson saying more P-card results. City manager office to spend over $150,000 last year in addition to his over $40,000 salary. I mean, there's about the office spending it, and certainly expenses, and if they are legitimate or not, is rife to be questioned. I know that KVIA has said that on this upcoming Sunday program, they're going to be having on former Rep Rodriguez on the use of city-issued cards. So I'm sure we'll have some more to talk about that in the coming week, because this is still definitely an important issue. Kevin Williams saying, I wonder how much our elected officials' net worth would drop if they did make cuts in spending. Thinking talking more about maybe the national aspect of that, as there is, of course, the spending bills, the debt limit deals, and all those bits of fun kerfuffle going on right now. So, but we'll talk more about that. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines right now. Again, that number to call is open and available, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Are you going to have an interview with the woman that is running against Beals in District 6 EPISD?
I'll say this that is our intention and the efforts we are trying to make, just as I guess a programming note, having difficulty with getting the scheduling down to work with the candidate, but we do intend to have them on ahead of the election.
No, that'd be very good if you could. In the original bill that the House passed, there was a thing called the REINS Act. You know what the REINS Act was?
Not terrifically familiar with that particular part. How do you spell that?
REINS.
REINS Act. Okay. So what point did you want to make about it?
Required any federal rule or regulation that would result in an annual effect of $100 million or more be approved of both the House and Senate before going into effect. Would have reined in basically a lot of the three-letter agencies and everything for doing things that they were doing without Congress's approval. So instead, Kevin McCarthy and Biden came up with a negotiated bill with the substitution for the REINS Act in the form of Section 263 called Pay-As-You-Go or PAYGO. You know what PAYGO is?
I mean, didn't you just say pay-as-you-go?
Pay-as-you-go is a rule that required that new legislation not increase the federal budget or reduce the surplus. If regulations subject to PAYGO increases the deficit through an increase in federal spending or a reduction of revenues, that increase must be offset by increased revenue or reduced spending in other areas.
So essentially, it would switch it so that it's not a, hey, pass all the legislation and then we got to resolve it all in a budget at the end, but each individual item would have to have the overall budgetary concerns already baked into it.
Exactly. So, you know what they did? You know what Kevin McCarthy allowed to get into the bill? And I'm sure that Biden is laughing all the way, and all the Democrats are just having a good time with this. And that was Section 263. In Section 265 of the final bill that was passed, it nullified the pay-as-you-go measure by making it possible for the director of President Biden's Office of Management and Budget, at her sole discretion, not to follow any of what was in Section 263.
I guess I'm not surprised about that. I mean, whenever you start talking about significant changes to how legislation is even passed, I mean, there have been some similar ones that we've talked about that have more or less feasibility, like what was it, the Read the Bill Act, which would have required the literal reading of every line of a bill, which, I mean, as much as you may think, well, what's wrong with that? Why wouldn't we want that, given how a Byzantine and also long, I mean, even some of the ones like the one we've been talking about, such as the Dignity Act, 500 pages. I mean, how long we start getting into for each bill becoming its own individual filibuster effectively. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one ever passing, and then that kind of applies to this one, if in a different direction, because that would completely change not even just the voting it would affect the creation of bills, because the amount that gets baked into it, not even just the self-referential, is going to add a whole nother layer of complexity. So I wouldn't be too surprised that ended up getting the kibosh on it.
Yeah, and Senator Lee tried to warn everybody in the Senate about that, but they went ahead and passed it anyway. And just to put icing on the cake, at a White House briefing, President Biden's Office of Management and Budget came out and said that, yes, of course I'm going to use that provision to defend and prop up Biden's regulatory agenda. So essentially, we had something in the bill that would have actually reined in some of the spending that that is destroying our country's economy. But we allowed to have something snuck in or placed in or whatever to nullify that part. So good going, Republicans. And instead of, one other thing that if you don't realize it, instead of giving the IRS $80 billion, they only gave them $78 billion. They gave them $2 billion less. Isn't that wonderful?
I mean, I'll take it, but that's not how it works.
There. And then they put in new legislation farther on to provide a slush fund so they could put that $2 billion back in for spending. So basically, it sounds like there's estimates, at least from Senator Lee's people, said that instead of saving any money or having I think they say $1.2 trillion savings, we're going to have run a deficit of $4 to $6 trillion in the next 2 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right with the numbers. I've also been seeing some estimates around that range, including there's actually a lot of references I'm finding to different versions of the REINS Act from apparently it's a fairly popular phrase that tries to get in here. I'm finding at least 5 different references outside of what you're talking about to things that are calling themselves the REINS Act, but end up being completely different things. But the one that's closest to what I think you're talking about would have been the idea of reining it in to be less than, about, $4 trillion to about $1 trillion deficit, which is, it's it's the ever increasing by order of magnitude. What's the old joke that was? I think it was. Yeah, I think it was one of the British guys saying $1 million here and $1 million there. Then you start talking real money, and of course that then became $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and now we're into the $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there. As a that essentially eventually you start talking real money.
I don't think it's a joke at all. I think these people are purposely destroying the American dollar, and I just can't believe that they, I guess if you give them the benefit of the doubt, they just either didn't read the bill, which they should have done, but of course they only got 72 hours to read the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Senate, Schumer said from the very beginning that any amendments to the bill are going to be dead on arrival because we don't have enough time to send things back to the House and then go back to the Senate. So what you see is what you get, and Republicans, more Republicans, more Democrats. I'm sorry, more Democrats voted for this bill than Republicans. That should tell McCarthy a little bit about what he has done.
I guess I wouldn't.
This is really a disgusting bill that the House leader has done, and it requires that he has a motion to vacate from his office.
Honestly, we wouldn't be too surprised if that ends up coming up, even in its own right, because, I mean, let's just look back to the start of this term of office and how contentious that was in its own right. But what I will also say is that, I mean, no one's going to be particularly happy about this, the way it was going to come down, because, again, as we've seen nationally recently, the only time, well, even then not everyone's happy. Only time anyone is really happy is when they get all of their one way or someone else does, basically. And given the fact that there was more impetus, I mean, there was a lot of chatter even going into this vote about those, particularly, within, the Freedom Caucus and other constituencies of voters within Congress like that, of just blanket opposing anything that wasn't exactly theirs. I guess I'm not surprised that it did feel like more of the onus on getting a debt ceiling bill was on Democrats, given that they have, control of the White House and the Senate, versus Republicans who, I mean, there was an argument being floated on the idea of like, oh, let's just let it go because it won't really be our fault. They didn't follow through with it. We only have one house as opposed to the rest of it, so the fault will really be on them. Not that I agree with that mentality on this here, but that was also being floated as part of this. So I guess I'm not too surprised about the way that vote has ended up being, but I guess, yeah, I still oppose political brinksmanship overall. The idea that we have to push it to the edge because that's the only way things can get done it's not a healthy thing, either for the country, either for governance, or for like anyone's heart rate and blood pressure.
Shame on President Biden for pushing it all the way to the end. Shame on McCarthy for folding his cards at the end, making it where there was absolutely no reason why we had to pass this by Monday, because there was plenty of ways to keep this going, keep everybody getting paid for who was supposed to get paid all the way into July. And McCarthy and them could have just said, no, we're still negotiating. We're going to get this done right. But we didn't. Instead, we showed our cards, and the Democrats already had, 4 aces. So it's a matter that it was a losing proposition because the Republicans got duped.
I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be touted, particularly in this upcoming election season, as we got this done, we got that done. So I think there's still going to be plenty of commentary and probably a lot of still spinning about this as being a victory. But, well, let's put it this way. A victory by those that were in the office and therefore part of the passage or decision or what have you, and probably a lot of stones being thrown by those that were not a part of it or that are not liking, like, say, leadership. So as much as this vote and the eventual moving on to getting onto the president's desk, I mean, there still could be some kerfuffles there, but I think that the desperation for a deal will probably propel this end up through. But I don't think that the debate over this is going to end even upon the passage of it. If anything, I see these being some of the headlines leading into the 2024 campaign and election season.
Boy, I hope we have a 2024 election, because I don't think we're going to. I think I have real serious doubts whether or not our country is going to, our economy is going to last that long because of what they have failed to do. I hope and pray that you're right, and I hope and pray that I'm wrong. Anyway,
well, fair enough.
Let's go, Brandon. Stay safe, stay well. God bless. Have a great weekend. And I would like to hear Raul's and all these other people's comments on what I just brought up.
Yeah, fair enough here. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
I will say this. I fully expect that there will be a 2024 election because, frankly, it would be, if anyone's trying to say, oh, well, we just can't have it, we can't do it, that would be such a red line for so many people that I can't even imagine anyone, even if there was a question about, say, the capability, like severe disaster, the Yellowstone supervolcano exploding, that kind of a thing, there would be hell or high water to move to have the election, because you want to talk about a violation of norms in such a way that affects the everyday person beyond almost anything that you can imagine, even in just the concepts that, that would be a red line for a whole lot of people. Anyway, a couple other comments coming in, including the idea that Calvin Williams asking, so who does the mayor hire if the city manager hires the police chief? To the answer we were talking about with the new interim city manager coming into the position. He's not going to be doing exactly the hiring, but is going to be doing the search. He will be making decisions on who to bring forth, but ultimately it will be, mayor and city council's decision, to my understanding, unless I'm at all mistaken on that. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we do on the phone lines, among other things. So if you want to get on that line, remember that number to do so, and open and available now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A man has been arrested and charged with murder following a shooting in northeast El Paso. Officers arrested 34-year-old Tristan Crabtree today. That shooting happened on Tuesday in the 10,000 block of Sunstone at about 1 a.m. The victim has been identified as 35-year-old David McCleskey. Security footage captured a vehicle driving by and firing shots. When officers arrived, they found McCleskey on the ground with gunshot wounds. He was taken to a local hospital, but later died. On Tuesday, authorities in Las Cruces were called out to a church to investigate a bomb. Nathan Wallace was seen next to a small park near East Mesa Baptist Church. A Doña Ana County Sheriff's deputy reported seeing a syringe with a black substance on top of the playground. A deputy witnessed Wallace placing several items into a black bag, including a gray 8-inch long galvanized pipe believed to be a pipe bomb. The 40-year-old was arrested and charged with possession of an explosive or incendiary device. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound still slow from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. It's a 13-minute delay. Joe Battle northbound after Pebble Hills. Roadworks finally ended there. All lanes are open. Northbound Joe Battle at Rojas has been slow for most of the afternoon. A stalled 18-wheeler blocking the center and the left lanes there. And heads up for an accident northbound Yarborough at Montana with police on the scene. Try Lee Trevino as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A very nice start to our Saturday as we're going to cool things down overnight into the 50s and 60s, but we're going to see some hotter temperatures return for the weekend. Mostly sunny skies, high around 92 on Saturday, with an increase in moisture, partly cloudy for your Sunday, high around 93, and partly cloudy breezy for your Monday, high around 91. Could see storm chances by Tuesday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Summer essentials for $25 and under, like swimsuits, cover-ups, sunglasses, and more accessories you need now. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Maxwell, he was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the drain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com. There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password,
for you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to LifeLock.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Summer essentials for $25 and under, like swimsuits, cover-ups, sunglasses, and more accessories you need now. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you. This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Those of you tuning in, chiming in over there, dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate, such as our Monica Cervantes, Matt Olson, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Amber Banda, James Holmes, Calvin Williams, and Angel Rueda. The comments going over there, and of course, phone lines as well. I do believe we got them all up and working here, but I do believe that we got at least one open then. So 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM is the number to call if you want to get on the line here with us. And we'll be getting through those. I mean, getting close to the end of this hour, well, this segment anyway, and then more to come in the second hour of the show. So let's dive right back in. We do have Raul in the Northeast in the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, a couple of things to our Dr. Mumbling, let's go Ben, okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, about the economy, today the market was almost up 2.5%. Overall, the year it's up 12%. Now, I recall when Ben's messiah of mendacity, malevolence, and maliciousness, Trump, predicted that if Biden won, the economy was going to crash, the market was going to crash, everybody would be poor. And remember, he made everybody rich before everybody was going to become poor. And that we'd all have to start learning to speak Mandarin Chinese. I remember when that mad traitors, morons said all those things. Now, one of the things about the Founding Fathers, I certainly have a lot of complaints about the Founding Fathers. I could design a better government, hindsight being 2020, and the explosion of knowledge that has happened in the 250 years. I could design a better government than they had. But nonetheless, they did have some good stuff. And one was, to divide, the powers of the government into the three branches so that we wouldn't have a tyrant, a wannabe Führer like Trump trying to take over the government, because power was dispersed so widely, and there was a checks and balances on each of the three branches of the federal government, with a judiciary, as you know, adjudicating the differences between the executives and the legislators sometimes. And so,
sometimes,
trust in the judiciary is really important, because it's supposed to be kind of like this judge between those two powers. And yet here we have, again, Donald Trump attacking judges. Okay, calling three of them who happen to be black, he calls them racist and animals, and that they're George Soros puppets. Now, that's anti-Semitism right there. George Soros is a Jew. He fled Hungary, Nazi and Russian-occupied Hungary when he was a kid. And then he made it out, got a good education, and learned how to trade currencies, and became a billionaire. And yeah, he funds leftist causes, democratic causes, just like the Koch brothers fund Republican causes, just like the J.P. Morgans and the Rockefellers and the founding families of America and the big monies of America, the DuPonts. I could go on and on with all kinds of names, who've been at this game a lot longer than George Soros, okay, and have a lot more money collectively than George Soros, and have generations of ruling politicians. These plutocrats are trained to do that. So this is what he's doing, and he's causing threats to these judges' families. This is horrible. And now he's in a fight with General Milley. Now we revere military quite a bit in our community, because we have Fort Bliss. I just drove through McGregor Range right now. We got a big chunk of government land, as you know, between El Paso and White Sands and Alamogordo. And so now we're finding out that Trump wanted to start a war with Iran, and that General Milley kept him from doing so, and that he also wanted to pull out of NATO, and that General Milley and the Joint Chiefs of Staff are the ones that kept him from doing so. So we have a very dangerous person in our midst, and he's trying to take over the government again, and he's got a bunch of loony people behind him like Ben and some of your listeners here and callers that are 100% behind this very, very sick and dangerous man.
You're certainly entitled to your own political opinions and deciding who and who not to vote for. That is your much right, and I would certainly appreciate everyone taking that same right as seriously as you apparently do. But what I will say this is that, Donald Trump, his character is well known. His inability or just lack of willingness to ever say, like, I'm wrong or I'm sorry, except maybe rhetorically speaking, it's built into his character. So for anyone trying to say, well, he's definitely full of conflict, and I'm not going to call it smart to say, frankly, anything about federal judges, but that's just the choice that I would absolutely never make. But like to say, his character is built in, and it's, I think, also specifically built into those that have decided to vote for him. And currently, I would hope everyone does evaluate all the candidates, and particularly those that end up on the ballot, on their merits, how they best end up being for or against them, their lives, the way they live it will be, the most advantageous to them, etc. Even though I know that there's a fair chunk of people out there that just look for the letter at the end of the name and then make the decision based on that. I don't think we're going to move that needle much at all, even though I would like to move the needle, at least people more voting in this community. So that is so much to say that saying that, oh, well, he's so bad, so how can you still vote for him here? Don't think that's going to work out for you the way that you expect it will, because there are still plenty of other things that people have brought up. And I mean, there's reasonable ways to not agree with a candidate and yet still end up voting for them because you don't like the alternatives. Hopefully, I would think that anyone thinking about voting for any of the presidential candidates, as we are looking at another mildly surprisingly crowded field, the way it's kind of shaping up here already with a bunch of campaign announcements, particularly on the Republican side. And I'm kind of wondering if they'll be on the Democrat side. There's still been rumblings of that, any serious ones anyway. I've got I get umpteen things from people saying, I'm running for president and I have a book. You should interview me. If any of them actually ever rise to a level of not just trying to sell their book, we might have them on the show. But let me just put it to you this way. I disagree fundamentally with anyone that says, well, this person is a good person, therefore I will vote for them and be on board with them, however they do, because it's kind of a misconception and misunderstanding of how this whole process is supposed to work. They work for us, and so we should evaluate them based on how that work for us will work. The whole cult of personality aspects that end up cropping up, if not every election, at least generationally, it does seem like, is one that is fundamentally opposed to the American experiment when it comes to exercise in self-governance, democracy, the way that we end up voting into it, and the Republican elements that come along with it, Republican little r, in terms of the representational government that we do end up having. So let's just say that trying to say, oh, you guys suck, so why would you vote for him? I don't find to be useful political discourse. There are many reasons, and one of the reasons we end up talking about policy more often than not here. So I appreciate the point in the call and the analysis for what it's worth. We're going to go ahead and take that next break here right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more of everything on the line, including some other assertions about other campaigns. Well, we'll keep our eye on all of them here, but Free for All Friday is what we are doing, and what we'll continue to get to. So again, if you want to get on that line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A man has been arrested and charged with murder following a shooting in Northeast El Paso. Officers arrested 34-year-old Tristan Crabtree today. That shooting happened on Tuesday in the 10,000 block of Sunstone at about 1 a.m. The victim has been identified as 35-year-old David McCleskey. Security footage captured a vehicle driving by and firing shots. When officers arrived, they found McCleskey on the ground with gunshot wounds. He was taken to a local hospital but later died. On Tuesday, authorities in Las Cruces were called out to a church to investigate a bomb. Nathan Wallace was seen next to a small park near East Mesa Baptist Church. A Doña Ana County Sheriff's deputy reported seeing a syringe with a black substance on top of the playground. A deputy witnessed Wallace placing several items into a black bag, including a gray 8-inch long galvanized pipe believed to be a pipe bomb. The 40-year-old was arrested and charged with possession of an explosive or incendiary device. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heavy traffic both directions downtown on the I-10 this afternoon, but mainly westbound between Geronimo and all the way up to the Sun Bowl. It's a 15-minute delay. Slow traffic I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriot is a 9-minute backup. An accident reported northbound Lee Trevino at Treywood. And heavy traffic's blocking the I-10 West interchange at the 54. That's exit 22B down south. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Summer essentials for $25 and under, like swimsuits, cover-ups, sunglasses, and more accessories you need now. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Lowbrow Palace presents Eli Young Band, Friday, June 9th. Tickets at lowbrowpalace.com. Friday, June 9th. Doors open at 6. Show at 7:30. Eli Young Band, live. Tickets at lowbrowpalace.com.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app. A lot of ways to, of course, interact with the show, including over on our social media channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, some in between, frankly, as well, or on that phone line, full up at the moment, but keep that number handy, 915-544-5876. 544 KTSM. Of course, the national stage is, well, it's one of the things we can talk about today since we do open up those floodgates of topic selection. But I just want to interject a couple of things from Governor Greg Abbott that, we're definitely going to have another special session after the current one. As tweeted about 5 hours ago, I will not give up on delivering education freedom for every Texas family. We will have a special session to bring expanded school choice to all Texas parents and children. So that was fully expected here, but also saying, and just kind of, I guess not so much in effect this time around, but maybe like a longer term mission statement, I guess, either way I'm taking it, saying Texans want to own their property, not rent it from the government. We can provide them with that opportunity by eliminating property taxes in Texas. Now, to my reading and understanding, that's not as effectively on the table this time around. Property tax relief or reform is, and that is still up for doing and debate, and one of the major ones that is remaining to be seen this legislative session, this special session, I should say, but we'll check back on that one because it's also not quite that simple about getting it done. So we'll check back on that, but we're going to have to come back to those calls right after the top of the hour here as we got a little bit too close this segment at the end of the hour. But if you're on the line, stay there. Again, if you want to call in at one, there is the vacancy, which I'll let you all know. That number to call is, again, 915-544-5876. So taking that top of the hour break, so coming back with that news updates and, of course, more Talk El Paso in the second hour of the program for Free for All Friday here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heavy traffic both directions downtown on the I-10 this afternoon, but mainly westbound between Geronimo and all the way up to the Sun Bowl. It's a 15-minute delay. Slow traffic I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriot is a 9-minute backup. An accident reported northbound Lee Trevino at Treywood. And heavy traffic's blocking the I-10 West interchange at the 54. That's exit 22B down south. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Maxwell, he was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the drain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching. The hair stopped falling out. The Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dynavite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Are you to become a victim?
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to LifeLock.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Brian Shook. President Biden will address the American people from the Oval Office soon. He'll speak about the recently passed debt ceiling bill. Biden's expected to sign the bill this weekend to avoid a default before next week. Former President Trump says he's at least as innocent as his vice president after Mike Pence was cleared of charges related to classified documents at his home. Lisa Taylor reports.
The Justice Department said today it wouldn't bring charges against the former vice president, and Trump wrote on Truth Social that he should be fully exonerated on what he called a hoax. The DOJ found a few sensitive documents at Pence's home, but in Trump's case, federal agents raided his Mar-a-Lago home last year after his refusal to cooperate with the National Archives for months. I'm Lisa Taylor.
A former Playboy model is suing Bill Cosby, and his lawyer is responding. That suit filed in L.A. County Court this week is from Victoria Valentino. She alleges Cosby approached her at an L.A. cafe in 1969. The now 80-year-old says she was drugged and raped. She claims she woke up on a couch and witnessed Cosby assaulting her friend. That woman's name has not been released. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis makes 3 campaign stops in South Carolina. Speaking in Beaufort County, DeSantis said if elected president, he will immediately make economic changes.
We will reverse Biden's disastrous economic policies that are making it harder on American families. We're going to open up American energy production so that we can be energy independent.
DeSantis went on to say he would close the border and end the immigration crisis and would crack down on crime. Famed racetrack Churchill Downs is suspending racing operations as officials continue to look into safety measures at the track. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Prince Harry is set to testify in a UK court next week, the first senior British royal to do so in 130 years.
The case is over a lawsuit he and dozens of other celebrities have brought against tabloid publisher Mirror Group newspapers for, among other things, hacking and unlawful activity to get information. The last senior royal to give testimony in court was Edward VII back in 1891 in a slander trial over a card game. I'm Michael Kastner.
Actor and radio host Danny Bonaducci is having brain surgery next week. Bonaducci told TMZ that he's been unable to walk or balance since last April due to a neurological disorder caused by a buildup of liquid in the brain. The Partridge Family star isn't sure how he got the illness, but said it might have something to do with all the stupid things he's done. DNA has led to an arrest in a 35-year-old cold case.
San Diego police say a routine arrest led them to a DNA match in a cold case murder. 57-year-old James Charles Kingery was arrested on suspicion of narcotics and weapons violation. That arrest required he submit to a DNA sample. 2 months later, that sample came back as a match to samples taken in the homicide case of 26-year-old Julia Hernandez Santiago. Her body was found October 10th of 1987 on an embankment in Carlsbad. Kingery is now charged in a rape and murder. He faces up to 25 years to life in state prison. He'll be sentenced next month. I'm Bree Tennis.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is showing off something new. He unveiled the latest version of the Facebook parent company's virtual reality headset Thursday. The Meta Quest 3 will be 40% thinner and have updated resolution and displays. In a video on social media, Zuckerberg said it's expected to start at $499 when it goes on sale this fall. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Ready to do this.
Get ready. Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is back.
This festival is insane to bring all these different types of music together.
Can you believe all the artists performing?
And this year, you'll be able to watch live on Hulu.
The biggest stars from all walks of music.
Be here as our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival lineup is revealed. Tuesday morning at 6 a.m.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Summer essentials for $25 and under, like swimsuits, cover-ups, sunglasses, and more accessories you need now. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hip, knee, or back pain? See if Arch Supports can help you at the Good Feet store.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jeff Shreve, and I invite you to follow me as we pursue wisdom and peace through Pray.com's new podcast, Weekly Wisdom. Every week, we will embark on a journey through the Bible to discover encouraging truths and wisdom to last a lifetime. The Bible says wisdom is like a teacher standing at the gate, calling for us to hear her words before it's too late. Will you answer that call? Listen to Weekly Wisdom with Pastor Jeff Shreve on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there, including Kevin Williams, giving advice I would say would apply to everyone that, saying previously, specifically to the previous caller, needs to go outside and get some sunshine. It's best disinfectant. I think touch grass is another way to put what you're saying here. But honestly, go outside if you haven't today. It's beautiful times, and it's not quite sweltering out there just yet here in the borderland. John Browsland also saying, who wants to bet the next city manager starting salary will be over $325,000 after a couple of years of raises. He or she will make over $400,000. El Paso never learns. I hope that's not going to be the case. Let me just put it that way. Because, I mean, that's like half of the reason I feel like we got into this current situation was the automatic nature of it. So we'll see what happens. I know that there's best practices involved in here, even if I don't totally agree with the comparisons that are being made to some of those other communities that are based on setting that level of compensation. I mean, certainly for the skill set that we need and frankly deserve when it comes to leadership, whether elected or not in El Paso, compensation is definitely just, but once you start getting that far above the level of the community, it does raise some other questions and at the very least implications. I'll say that. Hell, I'll do the job for $200K. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, full up at the moment, but if you want to get on the line, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. What's on your mind?
So I wanted to comment on some of the education stuff, but first I just wanted to mention, since this week, your best friend Eric has called, and Raul always, with their Trump derangement syndrome continues. And it's funny how they are just so absolutely blinded by half of what's going on politically in the country. Just a few examples. Democrats were complaining about voting machines and hacking voting systems, and Russians hacking voting systems. And if you go online and just like Google or look on YouTube, Democrats denying election results, they were doing that for years and years, including with the first election of Donald Trump, before any Republicans were on that line. And so they kind of ignore that fact. The rhetoric is the same thing, calls for violence or riots or those things, justifying riots and all those things. Even our current president, when he and Obama were running against Mitt Romney, Biden went to a crowd of black people and told that black crowd of people that Mitt Romney was going to put them back in chains. So, I mean, the blindness of that side of the system, and to be honest, there are people on the right who are the same way. There are these people who get in this bubble, and their own bubble, they are totally blind about the lacking of integrity and on their own side of the political aisle. So I just think people need to wake up to that and just be a little bit more realistic about what's actually going on, not about what's just bad about the other side, but what's bad about their own side.
No, fair enough. I think it's a fair point to make. I don't remember that one specifically from the Mitt Romney chance election, but I am recalling one of the more recent ones from the sort of current president about "you ain't black," which is not a line that I would end up following or even putting forth. I just got to say it that way. But yeah, actively actually evaluating the stance of the people. There's a reason we have a policy focus whenever possible, because anyone can say that, yes, I'm for the good things and against the bad things. You should vote for me. But if I'm not going to tell you how they're going to do it, that's a great statement. But show me the plan. Show me your plan, and I'll tell you how much I'm willing to support you or not. I always come down that way because it's the only reasonable way I can think to be.
Yeah, and it is true that of all the politicians, I mean, Trump was not a politician, and most politicians get to where they are because they've historically been very tactful and careful about the way they say things.
Sure.
I think Biden is probably an exception to that because he's never been all that tactful and all that good. He's got crazy gaffes throughout history. And so he's compared to other politicians, is probably one of the worst compared to some of the things he's said in the past. But let me tell you something of a little bit of substance, since Raul brought it up. I think Trump is the first president in my lifetime who didn't start a new war. So I'm going to take these rumors that supposedly Trump said something behind closed doors, supposedly said he wanted to start a war, blah, 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 with a little bit of a grain of salt, because he's actually the only president in my lifetime who didn't start a new war. All the Democrats, all the Bushes, they all started new wars. Trump's the first one who didn't, and which is probably surprising to some. But anyways, I wanted to get into this other discussion about the education that's been going on all week. And I would say that the biggest goal that should try to be accomplished is, you know, these people in these rural areas, they probably are happy with their schools and stuff. What you want, though, from any kind of new system is if you've got a child who's particularly in these inner cities who are stuck in these failing schools and they want a way out, those people should have a way out. A lot of these people who are in these poorer urban communities, they're stuck with the school that they're stuck with, and they've got no other option. And is it fair for them to be stuck in that situation? You want to try to give those people a way out. And I think that's a very reasonable thing to ask for. Now, the problem with that, and you have to be careful, is the parents who are going to take advantage of any kind of system of getting them out of those failing schools are typically good parents who are going to try to make their children succeed in any situation that they're going to be in. And those tend to be the kids who end up finding a success anyways, because they've got a couple of parents who are involved in their lives and willing to work for it and do what it takes. I mean, the question is, what do you do with the kids who are in that situation and they don't have that support network of a family who's willing to do what it takes to get them out of that situation?
I will say that parent involvement as considerations about what it is to even raise a kid in this day and age is just the internet alone. I mean, sure, it was around in a format when I was old enough to understand the use of it. But yeah, parental involvement and not abdicating that responsibility seems like it should be a maybe a failing one, but a consistent one that still applies at this point in time. So yeah, I mean, the more involved parents are in their kids' lives, it does seem that has a positive correlation, even if there are some significant outliers. I'll put it that way.
So when my oldest daughter was going into kindergarten, we happened to be at a different city. We were in kind of an inner city situation.
Okay.
And we went to the parent-teacher conference. It was us and one other parent for a parent-teacher conference night. And that was all the parental involvement when we were in that situation. And so there's some cultural issues and some other issues that need to be addressed there too. You can't, I don't know how you could possibly legislate trying to get parents more involved and care about education. And, you'll see different cultures and different groups that will do much better in terms of success when it comes to the workplace and education and those kinds of things. I think Nigeria immigrants are number one in terms of education of immigrants in this country. Asians typically do well, people from India. And that cultural stress for education and two parents in the home is something that almost guarantees some kind of success, at least high rates of success. Like I said, I'm not sure how you could possibly legislate that, though.
I will say that, like it can't make it so kids uninvolved with their parents because they're not in their lives. That's illegal. Like, yeah, you couldn't manage that. What I will say is that there have been some programs I've been aware of to help deal with it, maybe not so much. There's certainly cultural aspects in our local area, but also just like generational issues where it was never particularly stressed, even in like basic parenting classes of how to, deal with certain issues that just may never have come up in people's lives. In that case, it ends up being more of maybe a class issue than it is necessarily of any other immutable characteristic, but sometimes those efforts are needed. So maybe it would take funding for programs like that, which I wouldn't necessarily expect to come out of this legislature, because at the very least, it's not a sexy thing, right? It's not a, hey, we solved this program or this bill has ended this forever, which is, politicians like nice, simple declarative statements that say we did good and therefore you should like us. So that might be more necessary for it. And frankly, the efforts that I'm aware of along those lines, like I want to say like Centro de Salud La Fe and others like that have had programs like this, and it ends up being primarily, a nonprofit kind of push. So, and not really, I can't really quote like a success rates of that if that could even really be quantified as such, but just the kind of upshot of those types of things and being available in that way is that it can't be that widespread, because that then ends up being dependent on local efforts, local organizations deciding that these are going to be the efforts and the way they go forward to it. So I guess it kind of is to your point there about this being something not really legislatable so much as maybe making the opportunity more widely available for programs to address this than anything else.
Yeah, so my final comment would be along those lines. If there is something that could be done, I would say that in the way education is failing children, I would say they're failing boys the most. And I don't know what it is about the current education system that, I don't know if it caters more to girls or it's just set up to make it so that girls are a little bit more successful. Girls now are going to college more than boys. I don't know if it's just the type of education or it's harder to do, but I know that people want to pretend that boys and girls are the same, and there are always exceptions, but in general, they're not. I don't know if boys need to tinker more or playing more with tools or objects or engineering or those kinds of things. If there were more programs in that area that can get boys a little bit more interested, a little bit more involved, a little bit more working with their hands, those kinds of things. Because if you think about societal's problems, a lot of it stems from boys failing in schools and maybe not having much interest in what's going on in the schools. If there was some way to address that, I think that would be a positive step in the right direction, because a lot of the violence, the crime, the issues that are going on is happening with the male population.
I have long, even before, ever since really the Dirty Jobs days, followed Mike Rowe, who is kind of an advocate and activist in his own way. Like the Mike Rowe Works Foundation addresses a lot of college is not necessarily a bad thing, but college at the detriment of everything else might be. One of the ones that recent thing I've heard him say, or that recently came across to me anyway, was about look at what has been removed from schools, kind of in the way you're talking about, not necessarily in a necessarily gendered way, but the things that were deemed no longer, I think you called educational arbitrage, the things that are no longer deemed worthy of being, particularly in high school, shop class, metalworking class, auto shop, those kind of things that, used to be in schools and in parts of different education. Even other things like, say, like the DECA program was around when I was in high school. So I have by no means a full understanding or pretend to of what education looks like. Currently, I got out before Common Core was even a thing. We got block scheduling was our controversy at the time of the changes to education. That was more of a scheduling thing than it was any kind of educational systems. But I mean, the removal, the whole STEM then STEAM focus, and the removal and complete de-emphasization of things like recess, and focusing only on what academic merit is. Grades are the only thing that matters. I don't think has had a totally positive effect. Yes, if your metric is grades and you just want to get higher grades, sure, removing anything that isn't graded could do that. I actually benefited greatly during my high school education by having what we called at Franklin High School anyway, a courtesy period. Basically, I had a hole in my schedule that I didn't need any electives. I didn't have any core things that needed to be done. And so I had a period at least multiple times a week, if not daily, in which I basically just helped out with some of the IT problems at the school. I actually did some wiring back in one of the wings at Franklin High School. Wonder if it's still there. And doing so, kind of like, it wasn't graded actually technically at that point in time, and this is not meant to be a brag, it just was the way it was. It brought down my grade because I was in enough AP classes that I had that, like 101 average, and I could only get 100 in this class, so it actually brought down my grade. But it opened my eyes a lot to show that, okay, there's other achievement outside of the classroom of actually going out and doing things without necessarily being removed from school. I wasn't anywhere near that level. I didn't have a car, among other things, so couldn't go to an off-campus job or something like that. But those possibilities, and showing people that, yeah, it's not just about the classroom, but also about kind of how you want to develop your life is, frankly, I'm not going to draw a direct line from that to here to having developed and created this type of a program, but it's at least along the line, because showing that there are other things that can be done and not everything is what you can bubble in on a Scantron is, I think, just good for society. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and there's work programs like when I was in I went through the VOTEC school at our school, and it was a work program that I actually got out of work an hour early, or out of school an hour early to go to the job that I had at the time. So, and it was through the vocational school where they did HVAC, automobiles, like I said, working with your hands and doing those kinds of things that somehow along the line got looked down upon rather than being praised.
Right.
And a lot of people would probably be better off doing that kind of education and without going into a lot of debt and getting all this college debt and then graduating from college without being able to get a job that would actually pay you enough money to pay off the debt. So I think it's definitely something that needs to be considered. And if Texas is going to make a change, I think that's the direction I would go.
No, that's an interesting point to be made. And as much as there has been the idea of deindustrializing the school process, sometimes, some people will, not everyone needs to work in an office job. The fact that could even be construed as a controversial statement is one that I will never understand here. So we'll see what ends up coming out of it. We still we'll have some changing focuses within Texas. Some bills already coming through. El Paso Matters has a decent roundup of some of them, including a reporting by the Texas Tribune included on that, including a House Bill 100, which we had kind of talked about with some of the, what's the deal with school safety, but things have already changed there. And we got another legislative session, a special one, probably coming on that item as well. So TBD, let's just put it that way, for what education might look like in this state in the coming years.
All right, have a good weekend. Be safe, El Paso.
Nah, sure thing. Thanks for supporting the call. You have a good one there as well.
All right.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls. We got a lot more comments that we've been popping some up of. We'll read some as well. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. After this, if we'll get more to the call. So if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at exit 22B, ramp G south. Heavy traffic is causing a backup on the exit ramp. Heavy traffic blocking the I-10 west interchange at the 54. That's exit 22B. I-10 westbound still slow, 5-minute delays from the loop over to the Patriot. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriot's a 5-minute backup. An accident reported eastbound Pebble Hills at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at LockItDownTX.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Eucora. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. TNC and privacy policy found at Eucora.com/TNC.
I've always gotten UTIs. Cranberry products never worked for me, and I felt like I was out of options. I'm Jenna. My experience inspired me to start Eucora. Just mix a packet of Eucora with water and drink it to flush your urinary tract. Get your life back with Eucora. Get 30% off Eucora when you text HEALTH to 64,000. To get 30% off, text HEALTH to 64000.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And, of course, those phone lines full up at the moment. Just keep the phone number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And a lot of comments coming in, including Marky Mandingo on the whole city manager thing, saying we need to amend the charter and going back to a strong mayor form of government. There's some reading between the lines that can be done, / some out-and-out statements that have been made, if not exactly put into practice, I would argue, just yet by some current, former, and or desiring to be city council members. Previous candidates, and I think the better way to put it here. Anyway, more commentary coming in, including Angel Rueda saying Micro rocks. I haven't found much I disagree with him on. Not 100%, because I don't agree 100% with anyone that I've ever met. But at the very least, the idea that, different strokes, different folks, and also, making your people's life choices available to them, regardless of why they want to go about them. Just it makes the most sense. When in doubt, err on the side of freedom. I'll say that. But also one other comment coming in, the idea of a couple of kids misbehaved and field day ended up getting canceled. Everyone was sitting in the gym day. I'll just say this, as it came up during my high school time. Article 46, fourth paragraph of the 1929 Geneva Convention provides collective penalties for individual acts are prohibited. So I'm not saying it's a war crime, but I'm just saying maybe copy that part of the Geneva Convention. That's what those kids should do. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines now. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Before I get into Republicans' war on our justice system to defend Trump's corruption, I wanted to, point out, Stephen is, of course, going out of his way to defend right-wing terrorism, the racism from mainstream conservatives, and Putin with his whataboutism, like always, because of what his racist right-wing bubble has manipulated him to do with cherry-picked stories. Like, he's a pro-Putin conservative, like I referred to exists last Friday, and he's employing the false equivalency fallacy with his whataboutism. It wasn't a mainstream view or something promoted by the left 24/7 that Russia hacked the election in 2016. When anyone on the left did say something remotely like Russia hacked our elections, that was mostly referring to the hack on the DNC that was so significant in that election and not of voting machines. There are, of course, fringe voices that meant voting machines at one point, but those were extreme fringe views, not mainstream right-wing voices like you see from conservatives and conservative media promoting, election fraud lies. Like you kind of, or you did promote, that straw man and deception last week when I was correcting your lack of mentioning the election defining DNC hack and the release of those emails and how significant those were. Like I explained how that hack on the DNC and the release of those emails easily accounted for those 85,000 votes in those three crucial swing states required to win, the ones that Trump won by less than 1% by. And right-wing media has been sweeping that fact under the rug, with their attack on FBI investigations and spreading lies about the significance of Russia's impact on that election.
I think you're using the term fact there a little liberally, so to speak. The idea that there is an actual implication of it, you're doing a correlation, sure, and that's your right to draw comparisons, but you cannot prove conclusively, at the very least, I'd love to see the data that would show it, of the interviewing of those actual people who cast those different ballots saying, yes, this hack or the data released from the DNC made me change my vote. You're looking at the differences and drawing a correlation, and sure, that's fine, but don't act like we're talking about verifiable and objective truth here either.
Yeah, I'm aware that's what your right-wing bubble has caused you to defend, Russia's determining of our the 2016 president. That's what your information economy has led you to believe and to defend, because the idea of Russia single-handedly determining the election is just too big of a thing to humor. You're a pro-Putin conservative.
I can't even take that one right now. What have I ever said that would lead you to believe that I would like to do anything besides punt Putin where the sun don't shine? Literally. Tell me anything I've said.
I literally just pointed a very specific example of Putin's impact on the 2016 election, which you were minimizing and saying, we shouldn't be thinking about that.
Didn't say that, but if we're making up quotes again, we're going to have a lot of fun with that on this program if that's the standard we're setting. So let me make something clear. I don't agree with you on certain points. I agree with you on more than you're willing to admit, because the idea of someone that you so vehemently disagree with agreeing with you at all, I'm sure just makes your skin itch because you kind of miss the point of what a discussion is. But let me say this. I can both say that Putin is a bad person, and most of the things that he has involvement of is also bad. There are people who say that, oh, no, I wish Putin was in charge of the United States, and those people can get right out of my face 100% of the time. Not going to agree with them. Putin is, well, he's a lot of words I can't say on air. But to say that it's the only factor that changed of this is also ignoring several key factors that were going on in the election already. If you want to say that this is the straw that broke the camel's back, you're entitled to do so. But if you say that I'm not agreeing with you, therefore I have no leg to stand on, when you then ignore the things I also say. Because also, when it comes to the sources here, you're also very glib with saying, oh, well, it's your echo chamber. Here's the thing. I cite my sources when we bring it up. The reason we bring up the articles that you then accuse me of not doing research from, when you're reading from the exact same ones that I'm referencing, and I actually reference the full list on when we're talking about the impeachment articles from earlier this week, I cite what I'm going on, and I've never once referenced, except where on you basically bring it up, like Alex Jones or any of the other ones that you accuse me of going to here. You do realize that, right?
I know for a fact that you consume, I've mentioned this to you in the past, Alex Jones-like sources that have the exact same credibility, that they're bad faith, because all you do is promote bad faith right-wing spin, and you legitimately believe it.
And so you often have said that you only talk about facts. You only have verifiable facts. And yet, I'm going to challenge you for the umpteenth time now to quote me on any other source besides, okay, our most common ones are, of course, our news partners over at KFOX 14. I know you have your issues with it, but the interesting thing is you never actually bring up the actual item we're talking about. El Paso Inc., El Paso Matters, the City of El Paso, particularly on the Migrant Crisis Dashboard, and Texas Tribune, and then like a smattering of others, particularly on the, non-locally impacting ones. So, of those sources, again, exempting your idea that Sinclair is an evil entity that's here to destroy the world anyway, of the sources that we've referenced, which one of those is Alex Jones exactly?
KFOX, Sinclair Broadcasting Group, they haven't shared one single story about Veronica Escobar's immigration bill on their Facebook page. And not one. Can you believe that? That's because they're a right-wing propaganda outlet, and that's what you use to misinform. Or that's, in political science, there's a term called being a useful idiot. I don't think you're purposely misinforming a lot of people for Putin. Just your right-wing information sources that you erroneously trust have cherry-picked misinformation, kept you ignorant of important details. Like if you look at your coverage of Trump's, the investigation into Trump from the January 6 hearings, you're just repeating Fox News, Alex Jones-like talking points about their legitimacy.
Okay, I said that it was its own thing, but mostly what I said was that it's not an actual investigation. It's not a criminal investigation. It's a set of hearings. It's literally a separate process. Again, I've asked you this multiple times, but you've never actually said where I was wrong about that, particularly in the consequences that could come out. And yet you've constantly accused me of, lying about it. And yet you can't actually tell me where I'm wrong. When I was on that the only things he could actually face from it would have been, contempt of Congress, which, given that he didn't really testify before them, wasn't really applicable, or removal from office, which was a moot point from that part of the process since he was already out of office. I mean, is there anything I'm actually wrong with there, or are you just unhappy the fact that I don't agree with you?
I've listened to your coverage of those hearings for 8 months, and you've repeatedly said what was and wasn't discussed in those hearings, and you didn't know that the Trump state elector plot that involved the ENC to replace the state electors to steal the election was a core part of those January 6 hearings. And you didn't even watch them. That's what makes you a pro-Putin traitorous conservative. You don't even care about the facts. You didn't about the January 6 hearings.
So someone doesn't agree with you and hasn't consumed all the media that you have. They're automatically the worst things that you can get labels to here. Pro-Putin. And again, I will literally pay you if you can find a thing I have said that I even like about Putin. Literally, my most common phrase about him, I'd be willing to bet money on this one specifically, is that I wouldn't trust the dude as far as I can throw him, and given his level of security and a line of added, the long table that he has between him and anyone else, I would never lay a finger on him. There's literally a story out there that may or may not be true, but I tend to believe it, that he effectively stole a dude's Super Bowl ring by saying, "Oh, can I see it? Thanks," and then walking off and his security basically blocking it up. Like, he's not a good dude. He is KGB through and through and is never going to change. That's a tiger not changing his stripes. And generally, again, he could tell me that the sky is blue and I'm still going to go and check here. So again, you can give me all the labels that you want, but here's the one that I'm going to put back on you here. There's a lot of different political philosophies out there that have been aggrandized in a lot of ways. Fascism is often put forth as a general evil, like, oh, that's fascist, that's authoritarian. Really is what they mean is authoritarian, but fascism was specifically a political ideology put forth in, pre-World War II Italy under Mussolini, and his idea was that of the fasciae, that axe that has a bunch of staves together that become stronger when bound together. It was an actual political party, the Fascist Party. And his idea was that together we are stronger, though that ended up becoming, in practice, the, hey, if you disagree with us, you will be destroyed. So as much as you may not like him, that's why I'm going to give you the mini Mussolini title on this one, because anyone who disagrees with you has to be the ultimate evil and therefore be destroyed here. And that is giving you a nickname, as you often like doing for everyone else, and giving other aspirations too. So tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. I enjoyed the discussion-ish as we had it here, but we'll be getting to more of the phone calls, more of the other points, and giving some other people a chance on the line here. We'll be getting into it, and even if this isn't exactly a discussion, At the very least, it's a back and forth. So let's go and take that next break. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A man has been arrested and charged with murder following a shooting in Northeast El Paso. Officers arrested 34-year-old Tristan Crabtree today. That shooting happened on Tuesday in the 10,000 block of Sunstone at about 1 a.m. The victim has been identified as 35-year-old David McCleskey. Security footage captured a vehicle driving by and firing shots. When officers arrived, they found McCleskey on the ground with gunshot wounds. He was taken to a local hospital, but later died. On Tuesday, authorities in Las Cruces were called out to a church to investigate a bomb. Nathan Wallace was seen next to a small park near East Mesa Baptist Church. A Doña Ana County Sheriff's deputy reported seeing a syringe with a black substance on top of the playground. A deputy witnessed Wallace placing several items into a black bag, including a gray 8-inch long galvanized pipe believed to be a pipe bomb. The 40-year-old was arrested and charged with possession of an explosive or incendiary device. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound is slow with 12-minute delays. Trans Mountain over to the Patriot. I-10 westbound through downtown from Hawkins to Wyoming is an 8-minute delay. Eastbound Pebble Hills at Zaragoza, an accident reported. And Montana Avenue slow eastbound from George Dieter out to Desert Meadows with 9-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A very nice start to our Saturday as we're going to cool things down overnight into the 50s and 60s, but we're going to see some hotter temperatures return for the weekend. Mostly sunny skies, high around 92 on Saturday, with an increase in moisture, partly cloudy for your Sunday, high around 93, and partly cloudy breezy for your Monday, high around 91. Could see storm chances by Tuesday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Result of negotiations not guaranteed. Not available in all states. Approximate discounts of up to half before our fees based on an average enrolled debt and results.
If your credit card debt is out of control, if you're in over your head in monthly payments, there's a secret the credit card companies don't want you to know. If you have more than $10,000 in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's bad news for the credit card companies, but it's great news for you. We're Credit Associates, and we're offering you free information on how to completely resolve your credit card debt with a monthly payment you can afford. To see how much you could save, call now. 800-500-6135. Don't declare bankruptcy. Don't consolidate. Give us 10 minutes and we could save you thousands and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call now. 800-500-6135. For the secret the credit card companies don't want you to know, call Credit Associates for free now and see how much money you could save. Call 800-500-6135. 800-500-6135.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, including where we're going to squeeze in before the end of the program here. Phone number one last time, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll squeeze in the calls that we can, but otherwise, let's just dive straight back into it to get what we can. We've gotten in depth on a few things here, so sue me if I love a good discussion / argument that can't help me. I hold no ill will for any man or otherwise that has never caused me harm, but boy, do I get my jellies off on it sometimes. Anyway, back to those phone lines right now. We do have Eddie in Central online with us here right now. Eddie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to make some comments about good old Conrad Raul out there.
Okay.
You know, he just has no clue what he's talking about. You know, George Soros is the only anti-Semitist out there. I mean, he's proud of his mother who was an anti-Semite. You know, these people would rather follow someone who is tearing this country apart than someone who wants to make this country great again and be on the stage where we should be. It's just the most ridiculous thing. And then you got Eric over here spewing all this vitriol and, you know, talking about you like you're this schmuck. It's just unreal. I mean, Eric, Raul, you guys, why would you just move out of here, man? Go live somewhere else. I mean, because you guys certainly do not love America. You think you do, but you don't. I just don't get it, Andrew. You know, and a true blue American like yourself is being told that he just is blinded by the right. It's like, I don't get these guys. But the only blind people on this radio today have been those two callers. And that's all I got to say.
Well, fair enough. I mean, the lines come to mind about, you know, there are none so blind as those that will not see. But, I mean, there are plenty of people that have plenty of different ideas. The only one that I really end up having the most issues with are those that are saying there is no way but my way. There is no other way to, I mean, the simple fact or the idea that two different people can observe the same set of facts, the same circumstances, and come to different conclusions as being therefore somehow wrong or erroneous or non-viable. It just doesn't even smack of just a lack of perspective, but also a lack of understanding of what this whole system of government that we have embarked upon for the last couple hundred years is, on the idea of, yes, people are going to come up with different ideas. They're going to have different priorities, different lived experiences, and different things they want to see happen. And if you can't reconcile those in a way that doesn't involve blows, violence, political or otherwise, then this whole thing is not even going to end up working here. So if all you're focused on is, well, how wrong you can be, as opposed to, hey, this is what I want to do, how can we make this work? Again, misunderstanding the system and what the point of it is. So there's plenty of people who can disagree with me. And I know some people tell me that I shouldn't take this guff, so to speak, but let me just say it's hilarious to me sometimes. So, and I think sometimes people tune in just to see how I react to this stuff. So, yeah, we'll just deal with it in the meantime.
These guys insult you and tell you that you're just brainwashed. And, you know, I hate to tell them, but the only brainwashed people are the Democrats that are buying all this stuff that their side is doing to this country. And it's like they watch the parade go by and they could care less. That's, you know, I don't get it.
Let's just say there's a lot of opinions on here, and I don't expect, again, agreeing with me is not a prerequisite for participation in this show. That's the whole type of, like, you know, mini Mussolini nest that I never want to embark upon. So I'm willing to talk about with people, and we may agree to disagree sometimes, but I will end up saying that if you're saying, if everyone is always the worst person and all the people disagree with you are all the worst people, I got to wonder if you notice the common factor in there is you. Anyway, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right, thanks.
All right, and we got time to squeeze in another call or two here if we can. We do have Nate on the east side here with us real quick. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Yes, a good afternoon to you, Andrew, and God bless you as always for your show and for what you do. A great service for our community of El Paso.
Well, appreciate you calling in. I assume we got something coming up with the events for this weekend, right? Or technically today.
Yes, I want to remind everyone that we got at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to get out and get some 10,000, well, not 10,000 steps, many steps, it'll ease a lot of that frustration out there. You'll do a great service for our community. Please come out and join us tomorrow morning at the Fort Bliss National Cemetery to recover the flags, okay? And I guarantee you, those approximately 45,000 people, that soldiers and family members that's interned out there, wasn't political because they gave it all for our country in the sake of our country. So we can leave all that stuff behind and just do their memories and honor by going out and to assist in this great process. I guarantee you it'll help everybody feel better.
Absolutely. So again, that is Fort Bliss National Cemetery is 5200 Fred Wilson Drive. So right under Spur 601 out that way. So 8 a.m. tomorrow, the picking up of the flags in the finishing up, you can argue that way, of Memorial Day itself.
Absolutely. And God bless you as always, Andrew. You're great. I appreciate you, brother.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right, I think we can squeeze in one more quick one. Doing a kind of lightning round at the end of the show here. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll make this short. I'm not a native Texan. I got here late, and I did understand in the beginning when I was here that the Texas legislature meets only once every 2 years. Is that true?
Correct. 140 days every 2 years because, it's basically always been that way.
And now Governor Abbott wants to call them back in for another session, and then I understand perhaps another session after that. My suggestion is question, because I'm not a politician down here, but why don't we keep the legislature in session as other states do for an entire year, and then next year have another one and another? I don't get it. Why we leave them off the hook for a year?
Well, basically because it's best answer, and I know this is not a satisfying one, is that it's always been that way. Actually, was heard a quote recently that from then State Senator Dan Patrick, who's of course now Lieutenant Governor, doing kind of an argument for the same thing. But so when they're not in session, state senators, state reps overall, they get paid about $600 a month, and then there's they have an office stipend, and that's about it. So generally, the idea is that keep them out. And I mean, the way it's currently set up, they have to have full-time jobs. They have to be able to support themselves otherwise. So they give them to come back. It's not calling it impossible, but it would be a more than just, hey, y'all have to come back more often. It would be a complete revamp of not even just but who was interested in running for office. I'll say that.
Well, I would think with all the raises and property taxes around here, at least, that they'd be able to afford to pay these guys to be in session, year-round. That's just my idea.
It's a concept, and given that we're looking at another, through a good chunk of this year, because, there's, depending on how the outcome of this one is, there might be a follow-up special session to this one. There's definitely going to be another one when it comes to school choice and school funding on its own. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's probably one more thrown in there, particularly if board security isn't sufficiently addressed. I mean, we're talking about political priorities of Governor Abbott at this point being the driving factor, because he is in the driver's seat when it comes to declaring the special sessions. Whether or not this gives, if it goes on long enough, I could see those calls to just say, why do we even adjourn, kind of coming more constant. But I don't know if this will be the tipping point or not. I'm not, that my crystal ball is as cloudy as ever on that one.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate you, and have a good weekend there as well.
Bye-bye.
And with that, we got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk a little bit more about what we got coming up for you in some weekend programming. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A man has been arrested and charged with murder following a shooting in Northeast El Paso. Officers arrested 34-year-old Tristan Crabtree today. That shooting happened on Tuesday in the 10,000 block of Sunstone at about 1 a.m. The victim has been identified as 35-year-old David McCleskey. Security footage captured a vehicle driving by and firing shots. When officers arrived, they found McCleskey on the ground with gunshot wounds. He was taken to a local hospital but later died. On Tuesday, authorities in Las Cruces were called out to a church to investigate a bomb. Nathan Wallace was seen next to a small park near East Mesa Baptist Church. A Doña Ana County Sheriff's deputy reported seeing a syringe with a black substance on top of the playground. A deputy witnessed Wallace placing several items into a black bag, including a gray 8-inch long galvanized pipe believed to be a pipe bomb. The 40-year-old was arrested and charged with possession of an explosive or incendiary device. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Mostly just heavy traffic on your Friday commute. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriots, 12-minute delay. I-10 westbound from Airway to the downtown exits, that's a 7-minute backup. Vehicles blocking the center and the left lanes on Gateway West at Eastlake in the Lower Valley. And heavy congestion in the Spaghetti Bowl is causing a backup on the 54 southbound at exit 21A. There's a backup to Trowbridge. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $3 breakfast deal. Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is your choice of bacon or sausage, egg and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes for just $3. Break your morning routine and get your $3 breakfast deal today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, beyond out of time here for this show. So I want to tell you a couple of things we're working on for you. Hopefully more on these both elections and then also what's going on in the Texas legislature. Their House members might be getting back in town, but some other things going on, including the selection of lawyers for the impeachment trial for suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. We'll talk more about that. And just as a note there, still from a lot of tweets, I mentioned some already from Greg Abbott, Governor Greg Abbott, nothing even referencing besides the at all that I've been able to see Paxton. So I don't think that bodes well for the embattled Attorney General. But we'll talk more about that. Of course, this weekend on the El Paso History Radio Show, we'll be having on the War Eagles Air Museum about their many features, ongoing exhibits, and new efforts, including their summer camp coming up that delves into history and, of course, current technology. Got to get kids into piloting and aviation. So that'll do it for us for today. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show every way. We'll do it again as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., whenever we can get here to the studio, of course, here. So until then, until next time, I want you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
In the Lower Valley, a stopped vehicle on Gateway West is blocking the center and the left lanes at Eastlake. Slow traffic I-10 westbound, Airway to the downtown exits with 5-minute delays. Traffic's looking better Montana Avenue eastbound from George Dieter out to Desert Meadows, 6-minute delays. And stop-and-go traffic on Global Reach southbound approaching Montana Avenue with up to a 20-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Are you suffering from seasonal allergies? Because you're not alone. Experts say pollen season started earlier this year and will last longer, and that folks who've never had issues before are feeling miserable. I'm Martin Hoke, inventor of Navage, the world's only nose cleaner with powered suction. Over 3 million people use Navage to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, helping to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs. Navage helps clear your sinuses quickly and naturally. But what about other people's experiences, like Miss Clement? Quote, I chose Navage because of my persistent allergies. Navage works. While using it, I cut back on allergy meds and occasional shots at my doctor's office. Unquote. That's one of over 120,000 reviews with a 4.6-star average written by people who use Navage to breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier. Stop suffering and try Navage today at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay informed at ktsmradio.com. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso.